So companies are constantly trying to come up with new accessories for your PC, and one that Hyte recently came up with is the Solid Processor Frame. Granted, it's not a completely unique product. Guys like Thermal Grizzly and others have similar solutions, and they are there to serve basically two different purposes. One, to basically just look nice, especially when you pick one of the colored ones that Hyte are offering, and two, to basically have the CPU more level in the socket, provide better contact with the heatsink, and thus make the whole thing a bit cooler as well. So does it actually work? Well, it's kind of complicated. So when it comes to Hyte Solid Processor Frame, when you actually open the thing up, you get the Solid Processor Frame itself, which does look pretty sleek, I gotta give them that. You get yourself an Allen key to actually unscrew the existing mechanism, and the 4 screws you are going to need for the installation, as well as a tube of their own thermal paste, or thermal goop as they call it for no other reason, just to be special. The first thing you're going to do is grab a tool that's actually going to fit, because the key they've included does not actually work on the screws on your motherboard, and if you even test it on an Intel motherboard, it doesn't work there either. So that's a bit confusing, but oh well. Once you have found something that's going to actually fit, then you can just unscrew the existing mechanism, then put on the new frame, and then install it with the 4 screws provided. And just like that, you are done. It's pretty simple, and even if you're kind of new to this and kind of scared of getting too touchy with things around the CPU socket, don't worry, it is completely safe. Though, do be careful not to screw in the Hyte provided screws too much, because this can happen. Yeah, so be very, very careful. So now for the big question of, does it actually work? Well, that's interesting. If you're wondering why the temperatures are so high, I went for a pretty high TDP CPU to be able to really tell the difference. So I thought that maybe it's being bottlenecked by, say, our CPU cooler, or maybe the thermal paste or the thermal pads used. However, no, they made pretty much no difference. So I thought to myself, wait, did I do something wrong? But that was a silly question, of course not. And while checking on the internet, I have seen that many people have had, well, very similar experiences when it comes to this thing. The temperature drop is minimal at most, and for the most part, it's just going to be there to look snazzy in your final PC build. But even that isn't always the case, because with some CPU cooler designs, it is pretty much going to cover the entire frame, so you won't even see it. I have recently talked about it in the X50 review, about how if you're going with one of the Hyte cases with one of the more wacky colors, it might be a decent idea to get the frame, just so you are able to add, say, a tiny touch of purple to your motherboard. However, then you also have to make sure that the cooler you choose for it does not cover up the whole thing. So that's just another thing to keep in mind there. So how much is this whole exercise going to cost you? Well, at $23, it's at a kind of price where you can technically give it a go, see if you experience any drops in temperature yourself, or just to spice up your build. However, for many other people, it's going to be completely useless for the most part. And this kind of device may not even have too much of a future anyway, given how there are already rumors that Intel's future sockets are going to feature a dual lever mechanism to eliminate the very issue that these kind of products are currently trying to. So would you give this thing a go yourself? Well, let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, maybe we should check out Patreon, because while this thing is of dubious value, our Patreon is always worth it. Plus, huge thanks to Gavin Burns, Justin Rage, Lavroniak, Patrick Vokan, another pseudonym, Meg Sumner, Shane Allcroft, and Mason Magruder. But anyway, that's all it is. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.